So let's create our pyro simulation. So again, right click and go to pyro, and we're going to configure billowy smoke. And we can just use that. That will set up everything we need as when, we're not focusing on pyro in this lesson, so make it as easy as possible. So the smoke source, we don't need that. Get rid of it, and we need the skull, so I want it unpacked. Let's come in here. So there's our skull. Let's just be careful. So coming out of a simulation, you might have lots of weird attributes, so it's good practice to just drop an attribute delete, clean it up so we've just got points and we're starting from scratch. So attribute delete, and then I'm just going to put a star on everyone, so we'll just delete absolutely everything, and we only have points and nothing else. And then we'll create some points on there. This is a volume scatter, so you can see it's scattering inside the skull, but we don't want to generate bubbles on the inside, so we'll do a surface scatter like that. We can give ourselves some more points. Don't need too many, like that is fine. Okay, and then we're going to be adding noise to that so we can visualize it here. I'm just going to leave it at default, that looks fine. And then it will be rasterized, so actually turned into a volume ready to go into is kind of hard to see if we... well, let's just go into the sim. There we go, you can see it now. Again, press D and we'll change that. Lighting doesn't really matter. Let's give ourselves a bit more resolution in the sim. Oh, and we've still got that velocity thing from before. Okay, so that's something, it's not spectacular, but again, don't worry too much about getting lots of tiny fine details in this. This is purely for getting the velocity to drive the particles later on. So we won't actually be rendering this at all. Let's add a few bits in here. So we will give it some closed above 1. Okay, so that's our kind of bounds. Let's see, in solving, that's all fine. The gravity we don't need to change, obviously bubbles going up, that's good. In shape we could add some turbulence to this. I'll make it a bit more interesting. There we go, so we see some movement to that now. I think, yeah, let's give it a lot of turbulence at the beginning and then drop that down later on. So it's kind of like the splash at the beginning. Let's do 1 at the start. There we go, so we get that movement at the beginning. Alt click there to create our keyframe, and then go to frame 24, so 1 second in. Come on, there. Just let that sim through. And then I'm going to drop that down 0.05. Alt click again to create your keyframe. Let's go back and watch that again. So we should get a lot of noise, and then it will drop down. Okay, that's fine. Maybe we can, make the noise a bit smaller, the swirl size, drop that down, and make it a bit faster as well. What I also want to do is bring in these spheres that we created. Okay, so we need to actually make some spheres. So I'm going to do a copy to points. Down here, these will be our points. We're going to be copying spheres onto them. Sphere, and it's going to be a polygon. Connect that up. Okay, obviously a little bit too big there. So let's control that with a attribute randomize. Drop that in there. So not the color, we want the p scale. Okay. Let's use the seed. I don't think that should matter, but just in case, because we'll be doing this, we'll be copying these a couple of times. Okay, and the distribution, it's not a vector, just the one value there. But they need to be really small, right? So 0.01, 0.03, something like that. And then actually these should get smaller as it goes on. So we'll animate this as well. Alt click on both of these. And then go later on, maybe like frame 40. Drop these down half there, half here. Alt click, alt click. Don't worry about these keyframes, you know, it doesn't matter there. It's because I alt clicked here, not there. There we go, and then gradually as we go down they get smaller. So that's cool. Still a bit big. We can make them more generally smaller here. Drop that down by half. There we go, that's great. Okay, and we want to include these into the pyro simulation. So I'm going to copy these like that, I think. Okay, so now why they look too small? No, that's fine. And then we're going to create density with these. Okay, so you see that there. I'm not going to add noise to these just because I think the noise will kind of break them up too much. And then merge this in here. So we got the particles from the skull, sorry, the points from the skull and the spheres from the particle simulation together. And they'll both be rasterized to create our smoke. So we should see some, if we go and template that, yeah, you can see kind of the trail from the spheres there. Great, and then lastly, what do we want to do? Let's make a collider as well. So we'll use the skull itself and these spheres to make a collider. So we drop a collision source that will make that for us, make it really easy, and then connect the particles and the skull. So this is getting a bit messy. Drag that over here. Oh, I want to merge these together. That and that. So there we've got the skull and those spheres. And we'll create a collider. So if I drop a null, we can look at the volume, which will actually be used to simulate this. So obviously that's no good. You know, we've just got a kind of rough blob. So we need to give ourselves some more resolution. 0.05, there we go. So we can see the spheres now. And I don't want this, this will calculate the velocity, but we've got changing point numbers most likely, yeah. So we'll just get rid of that. And then these, the way that this works with the pyro solver, it's really easy. You just kind of merge them together. So you've got the volume there and then the surface there. You just merge them together so they're overlapping. And then plug it into the second port, so you can see the volume for collision, but it's volume and the surface as well. I think the surface is used for the velocity. Okay, and then we go into setup, collision source, which is perfect. That's what we're using. Okay, collision source. I want to match this to the to this. So I'm going to copy this parameter, jump in here, and match the voxel size. So right click, select it all, right click, paste relative reference. We'll have the same value in there. Go back to the start. Offset we don't need, so that will offset the volume, you know, in and out. So that should be all we need. Let's kind of hard to see what we could do. We could turn that velocity back on. There we go. So that's kind of, yeah, the important part is the velocity vectors, so from this. And what you can do is, if you come in here, right click, go there, click on that. You can offset this through your volume, so you can, you know, focus in on different areas and see what's going on. So just going through there, but looks pretty good. We, you know, may want to come back to tweak this later when we're actually advecting the points later on. But you know, it's a good start.